Hey everybody, this is Altarox, and this will be another election alternate history in my series in which FDR was assassinated in 1933. So, this is the 1948 elections, but first I'm going to talk about what happened in the presidency of Austin. So, he was elected during the World War II, of course, and the war probably would have finished by about, let's say, 46, possibly early 47. One of the reasons due to lack of American industry and helping supply foreign war efforts, but still, like, the Germans wouldn't have done sea lion or anything stupid like that. I really hate the premise of some people trying to be, oh yeah, we're accurate alternate historians, and then make a scenario with sea lion. That's a rant for another video. So, Austin would be president for a while. The war would end. There would be a similar thing with many people fearing the Soviets afterwards due to them rising in power. Austin would choose not to run again. And yeah, so the treaties have just been signed. Sort of similar to our timeline, but I'll go in depth into the war in another video. I don't know when I'll make that, but I'll probably make it. So, the first candidate would be for the Democrats, which would be Douglas MacArthur, who wouldn't be serving in Japan at the time because, like, I just say he'd hand that off to, like, Nimitz or something. He was from Arkansas. He was a war general, of course. So he would definitely, he'd definitely get a lot of votes due to he was a war hero, a war general, and before then he was a Medal of Honor recipient. Same with his father, one of the, like, there are only two pairs of father-son teams that both, father and son, so both won the Medal of Honor, and Douglas MacArthur and his father, Arthur MacArthur III, I believe, or Arthur MacArthur II. He would run for the Democrats due to the fact that he's very conservative in this timeline. Well, he was very conservative in the real world, and at this time, the Democrats are much more conservative. His vice presidential candidate would be Richard Reaver, who was from North Carolina. He would have a bit of Southern appeal and also intellectual appeal because he was a professor. He was very conservative, and he wrote a book called Ideas Have Consequences. I don't know. I was just I sometimes have trouble finding certain, like, for the vice presidential candidates. I just found a conservative writer or someone. I was looking through history of modern American conservatism wiki page, and I found this guy, so I just made him their VP candidate. This, you probably are wondering, what's the L stand for? That's the Labor Party, because after the slow decline of the New Deal, they would try to do a new beginning, and they rechristened themselves to the Labor Party. They would have chosen Oscar Chapman to be who's from Virginia, to be their nominee, because he would be able to tie into Ix, which was one of the only big candidate to come out. He was the founder of the New Deal Party, and he was, like, the base of the party, so they would have chosen Oscar Chapman because he was Ix deputy in real life and would probably be in, like, the short State Department run and would be in Ix cabinet, and so it would be, like, in touch with the roots. He was also a World War I vet and not anti-war, which would help them try to evade from the stigma that they had after Dewey ran as an anti-war candidate. And in real life, he was he supported the Republicans, and he was actually targeted by McCarthy, and he would probably face attack as the Labor Party. All the Labor Party would face attack from probably not exactly Joe McCarthy, but a similar movement. He'd be attacked by reactionaries a lot, but not as much as say Dewey would have been or another candidate, because he would have had his vice president was Mike Mansfield, who was he was from Montana. He would have Western appeal and labor appeal, due to he actually he fought against, in our timeline, the Taft-Hartley. You're probably seeing that Taft-Hartley is on the ticket, but they made a labor law thing, I don't know the exact thing, but it cracked down on labor unions. I don't know exactly what it did, but I believe it did that, and Mansfield was one of the... Mike Mansfield, he was a great criticizer of that. So, then you're probably noticing the Republican and P, which does stand for progressive ticket. So basically, the Republicans would nominate Taft, not that Taft, but I believe his son, Robert A. Taft Sr. He was from Ohio, and he was a Republican senator, very influential. He was conservative, so it'd be more of the conservative wing of the party. And he would work with Fred Hartley Jr., who was he was from New Jersey, and he had worked in our timeline. He worked with Taft to make the Taft-Hartley law. I forget if this is a law or a bill or whatever, but act. But yeah, so that's their ticket. I just wanted to include a nod to that. Although Taft was anti-war in our timeline, I don't feel he would have been in this timeline due to trying to seize against the New Deal, who would be his opposition, and since they were against the war, he would and they were very unpopular. He would they weren't very unpopular, but they were he would not like them very much, so he would probably just stay loyal to... He wouldn't speak out against the war, even if he personally thought so. He would just vote with his party for the war and stay loyal to Austin and McKinley. Hartley would also have a bit of appeal with the young, because he was a younger guy. But due to this choosing of a mainstream political conservative candidate, the Republican ticket, after the convention, some progressive Republicans would storm out, led by Robert Lafayette Jr., whose father was Robert Lafayette, who ran for the Progressive Party in 1925, in the 1924, I believe. Yeah, 25 wasn't an election year, but yeah, around that time. Yeah, I believe it was 24. But yeah, his son would be old at the time, and in real life died in 54, I think, 53. But so he would run. He was pretty old. He was from Wisconsin. And his vice president would be Harold Stassen. Always running again. Harold Stassen was from Minnesota, and would have military appeal, from veterans, because the more leftist candidates in this race would probably be attacked for being un-American and stuff. So Harold Stassen would probably be made vice president to try to curb that, because he was in the military. He actually quit being a senator, or I believe a senator, to go fight again, to fight in the military, in the Navy. But so Stassen and Dewey's debate for GOP in 48 for the GOP nomination was like the first recorded presidential debate in history, in the United States history. But yeah, what was I gonna say? I had something in mind. So military people. But yeah, he ran a lot. And the reason he would run, because he wasn't like the most progressive of Republicans, but I know, I read somewhere that like he wasn't a very conservative Republican, so he'd probably be able to fit into this progressive wing of the Republican Party. I believe, I'm not sure, but I think in like the 50s he was a bit of he was an advocate for civil rights, but I'm not sure. I think I read that somewhere. But yeah, let's start with this election. So right off the bat, I'm gonna have to get used to that. Vermont and then New Hampshire would go to Taft, because they were like, New England was more conservative at the time and would definitely go, but not as conservative as like the South, and they were Republican strongholds, so they'd probably go there. So would Maine. As you know, I'm not trying to do this like going down or something, but just those are very small states in there. South Carolina would go Democrat. I think that's obvious. I think Maryland would also go Democrat. Yeah. And so would Delaware, because even though Maryland has like Baltimore and many cities and stuff, MacArthur being a war hero would have that appeal, as well as the fact that like there was many conservatives in the state. West Virginia. I like to find it on my list. Would vote Labor with Chapman, because of the coal miners and such. Georgia would vote Democrat. Rhode Island would vote Republican. And so would Massachusetts. So, very slight lead for the Republicans early on. But that will go away. Florida would go Democrat. And so would North Carolina. Indiana would go Republican, because it's so close to Ohio and would be a Republican stronghold. Mississippi, Alabama, Democrat. Tennessee, Democrat. Connecticut, I see going Labor, because there wasn't as big of a though there was a stigma. Mansfield was actually born in New York, although he grew up in Montana. And they went out for Ix, so I think they would go out for Chapman. It would be a bit closer, though. Virginia, I feel, would go Democrat, even though it was Chapman's home state. I still don't think it would go to him. And I think Kentucky, because just the military appeal from MacArthur being a war hero. Arkansas, I see definitely going Democrat. Kansas, I see going Democrat. Nebraska, Democrat. Because even though Nebraska had usually voted Republican or New Deal because it wasn't labor yet, just MacArthur being a hero, by hero I mean he served for the U.S. Army in the war, because he would have, because he was already a general, I believe. Yeah, he was already a general. He was already a commander, at least, pre the war, so he'd probably, so yeah. New Jersey, where did I write New Jersey? Yeah, they would go labor, because they went out for X. Ohio, I'm focusing more on the East Coast now than I usually would. I don't know why. Republican, Taft's home state, would win that easily. Wisconsin would go Lafayette and the Progressive Party. And South Dakota, where did I write it? Yeah. Actually, I'll move on. South Dakota's a bit closer. Wyoming would go Democrat. Even though there would be Western appeal for the labor, it wouldn't be enough. So would Colorado, New Mexico. Montana, though, would definitely show out because of Mansfield, and so would Idaho for labor. Louisiana would, Democrat. So would Oklahoma, and Utah would also vote Democrat, as well as Texas. Minnesota would go Lafayette Stawson. Where did I write it? There we go. Because Stawson was from there and it's close to Wisconsin. Arizona would go Democrat. Illinois would go labor due to Chicago, and so would New York due to New York, and since there'd be still some support. LaGuardia had supported X, so there would be some older voters who would normally vote more conservative voting labor. North Dakota would vote progressive because they were more liberal during the Great Depression and such, and had voted for X, but due to they voted for X due to the support from Lemke, who was their governor in the 30s. But since there would be a lot of vets and stuff, they would choose to support Lafayette instead. Missouri would go Democrat. Oregon would go Republican. So would Washington. And California, with Nevada going Democrat. I think we can see who's most likely going to win this election. South Dakota, I'd say would go Democrat because it's a bit more. It wouldn't have like as much old support for a more progressive and would follow that. So would Iowa. Where's Iowa? Even though I know that they're gonna vote this way, I still like checking it off. Michigan, last two states. Michigan would go Republican. I wrote that somewhere. Oh my god. Yeah, but now it's all down Pennsylvania. They can't, like, pretty much whoever they vote for, MacArthur's probably going to win, although he will win unless there's a lot of dissenting electors. Because he can't make 266 due to just the mass number of different parties and such. But I think MacArthur's military appeal would give MacArthur Pennsylvania. So that's the results of this election. MacArthur with 261, Taft with 128, LaFollette with 27, and Chapman with 115. So, I don't know when the next one of these videos is going to come out. Although I said my next alternate history scenario video will be about Mexico, I just don't have a drive to write that as much as I did for the others, so I'm either going to do another scenario or I'm going to possibly continue the Second Punic War one because I loved writing that. Soon, my friend Amdesia, still can't pronounce his name, will upload his video. But, yeah. So, I have been me. You have been you. Goodbye.